Okay, I know this is probably me thinking too much, but was this movie supposed to take place in America? I mean, when has America ever had any kind of folklore or legends about dragons? If this movie took place in Europe, that just seems like it would have made more sense to me. I don't know. What do you think? Everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am Adorkable Rachel, and welcome to another episode of Rachel Reviews, where today we are going to look at the recent Disney release, Pete's Dragon. Yes, there will probably be some spoilers here, so just click away if you don't want to be spoiled, or if you don't want me to reveal any important plot points, just, come back once you've already seen it. Pete's Dragon is, of course, a remake of the 1977 film of the same name, also released by Disney. And I'm just gonna say it, I never saw the original film all the way through. I know, Rachel, you're like a big Disney fan. How is it you've never seen Pete's Dragon? Well, I have seen clips of it, I've seen other people review it, and to be honest, I just never really had a huge desire to watch it. Not even out of curiosity. But when I was writing this review, I did some research on the original film, and I found out that actually there's only a few little things that the original and this film have in common. There's a boy named Pete, there's a dragon named Elliot, and Elliot can turn invisible whenever he wants to. Literally, that's it! The original film was a comedy musical, this one was not, it's a drama. In the original, Pete is trying to get away from his redneck family, whereas in the new one, he actually starts off with a pretty cookie-cutter perfect family, and none of the characters from both films are the same. Like, not even similar names or anything. No similar songs of any kind show up, not even on the soundtrack or in the credits, and the plots for two films are not even remotely close. So just to get it out of the way, I have no idea why this movie's called Pete's Dragon. Especially since Elliot the dragon kinda isn't in it enough to really warrant the title. They could have just renamed the boy, renamed the dragon, and maybe come up with some other title called The Secret of the Nanny Hooty Diddy Wuddy Forest, and there you go. It's its own independent film. So no, I will not be comparing it to the original film because there is literally nothing to compare it to. Instead, we are just gonna focus on the film as its own movie. We heard that the reviews were actually pretty good on this movie, so a friend and I decided to go check it out so that I could do a review for this week, and just to see exactly what all the enthusiasm was about. I mean, especially because recently there was a big clash between critics and audiences when it came to the Suicide Squad movie, so I was kind of curious to see if it was any different. Maybe audiences would not like this one despite the fact that critics liked it. And I'm gonna be 100% honest with you about how I feel about this film. I liked it! In fact, you know what? I'm actually very happy that I never saw the 1977 film, because if I had, then I feel like I would have walked in this film with all these expectations that I shouldn't have had, and so I'm really happy that I didn't look back on it with like fond memories from my childhood. Instead, I just came in like it was this brand new thing I'd never seen. Even though I knew going into it that it was a remake and I was questionable about that, but I was really surprised by what I got out of it. If you don't already know, Pete is a little boy who starts off on a car trip with his parents out in the woods, and then they die in the first 2 minutes. Because it wouldn't be a Disney film if someone's parents weren't dead, am I right? But Pete survives, and then he is found by a dragon who Pete ends up naming Elliot. He spends the next 6 years in the forest surviving thanks to his new companion. And through some circumstances, Pete then finds out that there's people in a nearby town, and we kind of find out that dragons are like folklore or like some kind of myth to some people in this town. So the film ends up being Pete interacting with these new characters, everybody kind of getting to know each other, and then finding out more about Elliot, coming to realize that dragons do exist in the forest. The movie does have a lot of things we've seen before, especially in family films, such as a boy and his unusual pet, finding yourself and acceptance, a lost soul going on a journey to find family. But somehow this movie takes all of those cliche-ish things and puts them together in a blender and makes them work in a really organic way. And I think a lot of that attributes to the fact that the flow and the pacing was really good. It just had this really nice fluid energy to it, and I think that a lot of that is thanks to so many of the quiet moments that they have in the film. In a lot of scenes when there's not a lot of dialogue, you can see the film's development just through the interactions and emotions of the characters. Pete especially has a very clear character arc that we get really sucked into, and we feel his constant struggle and confusion with the outside world. But then we also see his connection with people and his hard acceptance of having to move on from what he's most familiar with. Throughout the film, there was a good sense of suspense, believe it or not, and there were some scenes where you really don't know where it's gonna go and you want to see the outcome of the situation at hand. The soundtrack totally took me by surprise. It was really good too. And what really got me personally about the songs is you kind of get the sense that these are songs that people in this town might listen to on the radio, so it just kind of adds to the atmosphere of this world. The actor playing Pete was great. His name is Oaks Fegley. I mean, what a great name for an actor who's playing a character that spent a lot of his life in the woods. I really liked his relationship with Elliot. I know that Elliot was just this computer-generated monster, but you still really felt the connection between the two. And don't forget, in the original movie, he was an animated dragon when everyone else was real, so you can't just be like, oh, it's fake. Like, come on, you know it's fake, but that doesn't mean you still can't get sucked in the relationship. Also, Elliot kind of took on the personality of a dog at some moments where like he was like sniffing or like playing. It was really adorable just to kind of see like this big dog type character that was basically Pete's pet. Aside from Pete, I think one of my favorite actors in the film was Bryce Howard. She plays a character named Grace, who's a forest ranger that discovers Pete, and she just has this really, really sincere personality. There wasn't a moment where I felt like the filmmakers made any weird choices or mistakes with her. She was really sympathetic, and you truly got the idea that she just wanted to help Pete at all costs. The character Natalie was really good. I liked her relationship with Pete. There was also the Jack character, who's Natalie's dad, and he was kind of forgettable. I don't really remember much about him. Kind of didn't play much of a part in the movie. I will admit though, I was actually kind of intrigued by the bad guy character, Gavin. Now, I was gonna use the term antagonist to describe him, but actually, he kind of deserves the title of bad guy, and I'll explain why. I like how this character starts out. You get the sense that he, you know, runs this lumber mill and he's got a job to do. And when he discovers that Elliot exists, he goes on a hunt for him, but you kind of get more of the sense that it was more to protect his family or protect the town, just more out of safety than greed. But then when he captures Elliot and brings him into civilization, it's suddenly, this dragon is gonna put me on the map and I'm gonna be rich and famous and you can't stop me. Really? He had to have a typical bad guy trope of wanting to be famous? I mean, he started off so strong and like he was actually like a hero in some ways, and of course we didn't want him to hurt Elliot, but then all of a sudden it was like, money! And it also kind of came out of nowhere. There was never a mention of him wanting to be famous. If he wanted to be famous so much, then what in the world is he doing in this town? You were this close to having such a good, complex, and sympathetic bad guy, guys. No, just 2 lines. But to be fair, he does learn a lesson in the end, and therefore we kind of like him, but that, just that one little change ruined it for me. Yeah, that was really weird. So this movie was pretty clear, and it wasn't really hard to follow anything, like as far as the legend and the folklore. But there was one little nitpicky part that I was confused about. What was up between the relationship between Grace and Jack? I think it was kind of mentioned in the beginning that they were engaged, but it was kind of a throwaway line and you would have almost missed it if you weren't paying attention. And then they don't share any romantic chemistry for the rest of the movie, no mention of it or anything, but then at the very end, they show pictures of them like having gotten married. Okay, it's like Disney forgot the ingredients of its own brand and too little too late we're like, oh shoot, we gotta have romance, so let's put these 2 together and add that line at the beginning and boom, we got a couple. Seriously, you could have taken that line away and then also take away that picture at the end and it would not have made a difference at all. Heck, it probably would have been a little stronger if they weren't a couple. I mean, spoiler alert, the movie already had a happy enough ending. You didn't have to make them a couple. Didn't really seem to change their personalities in any way. Also, I have a question. Why was Elliot furry? I don't get it. Aren't dragons supposed to be like, you know, scaly and reptile-y? When have we ever seen a dragon covered from head to toe in fur? And what's the purpose? I mean, if I had to come up with my own conclusion, I would say maybe it's kind of like he's covered in moss, like he's camouflaging with the forest, or like he's one with the forest. But he can already turn invisible, so what's the point of that? Oh, and Robert Redford was in this, by the way. Yeah. Just FYI. It's kind of funny because he starts off in the movie telling the story of the dragons, but then like he's not in it for the rest of the first act, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's right, Robert Redford's in this. You were supposed to play a big part in this movie, weren't you? Come back here, you. Where do you think you're going? Come back. Okay, so besides those little nitpicks on my part, this movie does actually have a lot of heart to it. My friend and I, we did not expect to like it as much as we did. I got really emotional at the end. My friend was crying, like legit crying. Like I had to like squeeze his arm with comfort and be like, dude, it's okay, I get it, I know. I mean, seriously, it was that emotional. And it really hits you in the feels by the end. And what's nice about it too is that there wasn't really anything that was super corny in the movie or like too overblown in that way. Besides maybe the bad guy stuff, but not really corny, just kind of like annoying for like, you know, being a typical kids film kind of trope. I love that there weren't any stupid modern day technology references. There wasn't any like stupid kid humor. Also, I found out later that apparently this movie took place in the 80s. I thought it was now. I didn't see any resemblance to the 80s or anything like that, but supposedly it doesn't take place in like the now. But maybe that's why there wasn't any like technology like phones or iPads or GPSs or anything like that. And I think that all of that just added to the organicness and the nice adventure feel the movie had. It was just a simple story about a young boy and his pet dragon, his relationship with the other characters, the journey he goes on to find himself, and you know what? That is sometimes all you need. Also add a little bit of epicness in there, you know, for the adventure part, but again, that was done pretty well too. Disney has really surprised me lately with all of their live action remakes, and they really have been effective. I've said before, I'm not a huge fan of remakes unless there's like a specific purpose to them, and I don't know if I would really call this film a remake, but it definitely had a story to tell. I honestly love it when I go into movies and have a couple of expectations, because, you know, sometimes those expectations just get thrown out the window and you walk away from a journey that you didn't expect to go on. And that was this movie. And that's the key word too. It was a journey. A journey that I think kids and adults, families, and pretty much anyone of any age can enjoy. It really pulls on kind of like that fantasy of having a big, unusual pet, and even adults will get caught up in the suspense and the characters. It is, in my opinion, a great definition of a great family film, not a kids movie. Keep in mind, there is a huge difference. Call a remake or its own original film, I don't care. You know what? I loved it. And I highly recommend it and think that you should check it out if you haven't yet. So there's my review of the 2016 film Pete's Dragon. Now my question for you guys, as always, is what did you think of the movie? Have you seen it? Have you not seen it? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you want it to be more like the original? Are you glad it wasn't? Go ahead and leave your comments below. Be sure to like and share. And if you like what you saw here, please be sure to hit that subscribe button. And as always, please be sure to check back for more Adorkable videos coming up soon. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, Adorka buddies! Bye!